And it should be recording.
I think it'll tell us. There we go.
Boom.
Sweet. Well, welcome to, is this April's meeting? No, it's March. Oh my God. Okay, so March's meeting. We got Brian with us once again. He joined us in January to do just a quick chat about Nova and just getting our preliminary ideas on that. So now that most of us, I think, are well into fermentation, he's here to go a little bit deeper of a dive on Nova, which would be super cool. Average brew, we're right in the middle of West Coast Pilsner. So I know mine will be transferred tomorrow and fined. So I'll be looking forward to trying that because my taps are empty right now. Thanks, Spirit. You want to say hi? Someone wants to say hi. There. Can you wave? No.
Okay. Go play a game.
I don't know, Will, what else we got to talk about? We got Brew Club Experiment Series. I know a ton of us are doing side-by-side comparisons with Nova or Diamond versus something else, or them versus each other, which would be super cool. We're going to send out a yeast survey here to collect some information for Brian and Lallemand. So that's going to be really awesome to see the results of that. I know for mine, for sure, Brian, I just sent you a picture of it a couple minutes ago. There's a distinct difference, at least what I'm getting. So I'm curious to see what else.
Yeah, there better be, goddammit.
There's a clear difference, at least from the warm hydrometer samples.
All I have is like, there's a lot of cool things that we're kind of working on behind the scenes and working, and that don't really have a lot of texture to it enough to like really make an announcement yet. And so we're kind of working through some really cool things. So hopefully in the next week, 2 or month or so, we'll be able to announce more. But there's just a lot of cool things. I know Haven and Alex, Havo, and then David and myself are all kind of got our fingers into. So there's some cool stuff. It's on the horizon. I promise. It's just not enough texture, not enough meat on the bones to really want to announce it in something in a formal capacity yet, although you may hear us mention it in passing. So, kudos to everybody on the leadership team for like trying to get some more bang out of the buck for those of you that are paying, and then even the freebies. We're just trying to make this look good for everybody and make it a beneficial club for everyone.
You bet. Yeah. And speaking of which, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you're reaching out to suppliers for that kind of stuff, right?
No, you're the main supplier that we've been working with, which has been great. We have some ideas in the works of other things we want to try to do, but we're kind of just taking it what we can get right now.
Cool.
I mean, backroom drug deals are our thing, Brian, and you're our main guy. So what's up?
I was gonna say, what you want? No, hops, malt. We as suppliers, and I've worked with a few, we all work with groups like you guys, and are always happy to engage on varying levels. Never, don't be shy about reaching out. So let me put it that way.
Awesome. And yeah, I got a really cool something I got to talk to. I know we discussed Q2 average brew before, but it sounds like plans may have shifted a little bit to where it's going to be quite a huge deal what we're going to do. So I'll shoot you an email on that, just so we can get things kind of in planning, because it's sounding like it's going to be pretty neat. I guess, yeah, the quick announcement, if people didn't see, we got a new leadership member. We figured we should probably start staffing this thing so we didn't get overwhelmed with all the new stuff that we were doing. So David O'Neill just happened to be helping me with the website. I saw he had a Google site going for his home brewery, and I chatted with him about some questions on doing one for the brew club, and David kind of jumped on and took it over and did way more stuff with it than I could ever do, because mine was kind of amateur and sloppy, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing with that stuff. So David just jumped on and started showing us some cool stuff that he was doing with Google Sites, and we figured might as well just bring him on and just have him do that. So he's going to be taking over the website and probably some more stuff, whatever whatever we're doing, just organizing stuff. So yeah, welcome David. Thanks for joining the crazy group of guys that are trying to lead this.
Yes, thanks you, David.
Thanks.
And I think with that, I don't know, unless Will or David, you guys can think of anything else. Brian, the floor is yours.
Shut up and let Brian talk.
All right. Well, let's see here. Your questions, dump them into the chat if you don't mind. And then kind of when I get at the end here through my ramble, I'll kind of start at the top and wade back down through as opposed to you guys jumping in. Only reason I say that is that way I can get through. I've got some slides. I know we're all tired of fucking slides, but this is going to be fun because I'm going to send you these slides. This is the new technical paper that we just released on Lager, and I'm going to step through a few of these pages, focus on a few, and then you guys can like read it on your own time, right? So basically that's what I'm gonna do at the end of all this. I'm also gonna spend a little bit of time talking about your brews, what you've got going on right now with the yeast that we sent out. And then Haven at the end. I know that you've got some form or format to where you're going to kind of compile a lot of this info, and then we'll monkey around with that on the back end. I know that folks both in the lab, and I mean, marketing is always marketing, but in the lab are kind of keen on what you guys are doing. Lab guys don't make beer. You know, they make beer in a tube for data. That's what they're brewing, is they're brewing data. And so we come to the market with a product like NovaLager, with a good idea of what it can do. But dude, scientists, the lab guys, they're not brewers, you know, and they're not home brewers. And the difference I say between what guys are doing on a commercial level and what you guys are doing is that you guys go to 11, right? Commercial guys need to produce something that they can sell. Flat out, you know, and as a brewer for a long time, I knew that the shit that I wanted to brew for myself didn't necessarily move that fast over the bar. You know, so your choice of what you can do, how you go about it, your attitude and approach is entirely different than what we get out of our commercial trials and then what we get over or off the bench in the lab. So I can't tell you how much I am thankful and grateful for your time. Not only listen to me ramble, you know, warms my heart, but for what it is that you guys are doing in the garage, the basement, the closet, wherever, to come up with like this is field work. Is basically what this is. So thank you. That being said, what are you guys drinking? This happens to be the bottle that I'm opening up at the present moment because I don't have I don't have the time to brew, which is a sad thing. But all right, there's a good can. I like it. There's a dark beer. Awesome.
Brent,
Say again.
I think Brent is holding up his West Coast Bills.
Yeah, it's pretty young, so we'll see how it clears up. I haven't done anything with clarifying or anything, but
We'll talk about clarification here in a bit and its role. Awesome. Let's see here.
Yeah, lager.
So I just see a quick question there, what my role is. A little bit about myself. Brian Perkey, I'm currently the senior key accounts manager at Lallemand, which means I'm the old grumpy guy that they don't know what to do with. So they farm me out to, the folks that I have like a long-standing relationship with. Country Malt Group, More Beer, More Flavor, Brewer Supply Group, handful of other smaller distributors, around the country, and then larger brewery accounts in my territory, which is the Northwest, stretches along the Canadian border out to Wisconsin. I started into the industry in 1992 at a brewery called Bridgeport in Portland. And then I went through, I'm on the 5-year roll. 5 years at Bridgeport, 5 years at Full Sail here in Hood River, 5 years with the Gordon Biersch Group down in California. I spent a few years with Yeast Laboratories. I spent a few years with Munton's Malt. I've done a couple of years doing cider with Crispin and Jester and Judge, and dicked around with my own brand for a bit. A couple of years as head brewer at a place called Thunder Island here in Cascade Locks. And then I'm coming up on 6 years with Lallemand. So I'm about 30 years deep into this. I love what I do. I love beer because it's not beer to me. It's art, it's science, it's history, it's community, all by the glass. So cheers to you.
Well, you're my favorite curmudgeon at Lallemand, if it makes you feel any better, Brian.
What's that?
You're my favorite curmudgeon there, so if it makes you feel any better, you're my favorite.
Dude, I am the angry old guy. They kind of called me that, which great segue into lager, like our disco. All things kind of like come back around. What's new coming up? Amber, golden ale, guaranteed that shit will come back. And it's a refreshing revisit to not just an old style, but also it gets us back to some basics, right? You can't monkey around with lager, because it is such a traditionally a neutral or a known medium. Any variation to the theme is really going to stand out, or flaw is going to stand out. That's why they would say an American light lager is one of the hardest styles to produce, because there is no room for error. Any misstep along the way will result in a glaring flaw. So anyway, that's my background. My desert island beer is Rauch beer, smoked beer from the Heller Brewery in Bamberg. This is their non-smoked version, their lager, which actually picks up a note of background character if you're really looking for it. So it's a nuanced smoked lager. So Prost.
Some would say it's the curmudgeon of beers styles.
I've actually been to that brewery, and I love Bamberg, and I love Schenkerla, and I think it's it's like my happy place on earth. So
yeah, I've been there several times, and then I have a dear friend, Denise Jones, who actually works for Fermentus now, but she used to be the Moylan's head brewer down in California, and she actually moved to Bamberg to work for Weyermann as their head distiller. for about 5 years. So I got to go over and visit, and got the inside tour. She makes some really good gin, and they make some fantastic malt. You know, you talk about wanting to like monkey around with malts, you know, that backdoor deal. You know, I'll get you hooked up with Tomas. He likes beer. So, all right. I'm going to show you some slides here now. So one moment while I get you squared away. Go. Where is it? Oh, that, Jesus Christ, old fucker. All right. So I'll put a link to this this technical paper in the chat. You can download it and then use it as a resource for your continued logger exercises and experimentations. Kind of before we get into that, I mean, we talked a little bit last time, you know, somewhat about you know, the history and the advent of the style, some basics on the yeast. And you can correct me if I'm wrong here at the end with some questions. These were the notes that I had for last session's talk. Talked about the development of lager strains, eubayanus versus pastorianus, and we'll get into more of that here in this discussion. In fact, that's one slide I want to focus on. Origin and development of those strains and what we want to typically see from what we know as traditional lagers in regards to attenuation, esters, and other volatiles, CO2 levels, clarity, etc. Touch briefly on some techniques, and then available ingredients and supplies. So we're going to revisit those and more. Again, you're going to get this as a reference on the back end, so I'm not going to go through everything here, but follow along while you and I enjoy our beers, and then we'll talk shop at the end. So lagers historically were based on conditions and availability of ingredients and control. Modern focus is really on the improvements of those ingredients and also brewing conditions. Lagers vary widely between light and dark. You can get into the BJCP and study historical beer styles in the lager category. Every beer's got a story. That's half the fun. Really, you know, water, malt, hops were the basis of early known brewing. You know, this stuff from the Bohemian region dictated early representations of the style, which still hold true today. You think about not just Pilsners from both northern and southern Bohemia, difference between a northern German Pils and what you're going to get out of the Czech Republic. but that also light and dark malts based on malting technology at the time. A lot of those, if not all of those beers, were smoked. It would have been great to try some of those early examples. A fun tour, if you've never done it, is to go check out the old brewing museum in Pilsen, either before or after you go to Urkel. We'll get into the yeast here in a little bit. Water typically soft, and then most hops were and or light kiln, traditionally 6-row versus 2, which influenced mash or production styles, Garza enzymatic activity, and then hops, Saaz, Hallertau, Spelt. All of these varieties are still used today by both traditional and modern lager brewers. So this is kind of the slide that I wanted to focus on because, you know, all of those ingredients aside, really what defines lager as a style is the yeast that's employed, not only for the known flavor and aromatic conditions or characteristics that yeast um, impart into beer, but specifically the conditions that these yeast were able to employ said muscles. So the original strain is pastorianus. It's a natural hybrid of cerevisiae and a strain called eubayanus, also a sac strain. We talked a little bit last time about country of origin. You know, these were really, in terms of eubayanus, from the Patagonian region, which really, when you think about it, you know, talk about cold conditioning, you know, this would be the spot. Typically, you know, I'm preaching to the choir here. You know, cold tolerant, bottom fermenting, slower. It has a wide mouth range of sugars to consume. So over time, and because this is one of the oldest strains used, known, employed, typification has gone deep, and we've now got 3 groups of lager strains. And if you look at the little diagram here, figure 1, the OG lager strain is this group 1 called Saaz. And this has 1 set of chromosomes from cerevisiae and 2 from eubayanus. So these are the cold or cryo-tolerant strains because of the ratio of the eubayanus genome. Group 2, the Froberg classified strains, have 2 sets of chromosomes from both. So a little more robust in its fermentation, a little more expressive in its sensory contribution, but also a greater fermentation temp and alcohol tolerance range. Now the group 3 ones are the new ones, which are represented by the NovaLager. This is a marketing this is a marketing slide. So they're calling them Renaissance strains, but we'll see what this shakes out in the next 20 years. If indeed Renaissance, which is the company that is producing this strain, and the Lona strain, that low no alcohol strain that we were talking about earlier, these have 3 sets of chromosomes from cerevisiae, 1 from eubayanus. So you follow kind of the progression here. So we get a wider efficacy, across the fermentation requirements in terms of gravity, pitch rate, cryotolerance, high or low. And because these guys are the schmooing experts, if you remember from the last talk, how they have the ability to develop these strains. That's where the ability to incorporate in the cerevisiae strains, the 3-to-1 that you see here on the diagram, incorporate into those through their hybridization techniques, the no H2S, the low diacetyl, and good God knows what else they've got, up their sleeve. Obviously something if they're gonna like label themselves as group 3. I mean, that's pretty ballsy. So, so the yeast strain that you guys have been monkeying with is indeed unique unto itself in regards to anything that's either on the market or what you might have been able to have access to before. Now, whether it's good or not, subjective and to be determined here, but I'm hoping so. So if there's any questions on this one, put them in the chat, and we'll get to that in a minute. And then kind of on this slide, I also want to just talk about briefly about the fact that there are ale cerevisiae strains, that are classified as an ale strain that do have a high cryotolerance. Think like our Nottingham is a good one. Think a traditional like a Kolsch strain, or an alt strain. Those ale strains are adapted at lower fermentation temperatures and can produce pseudo lagers. And the guys in the lab have actually, found that there are several commercial lager strains out there that are identified as cerevisiae as opposed to pastorianus. And we talked about this on earlier. You can't monkey with a light, clean, beer. Big thing about flavor control is contamination. Yeah, there's no room for error. Other things that impact quality control, not just yeast selection, but its viability and count and or pitch rate. I would also throw in vitality as well. One positive, well, I got a lot of positive things to say about liquid yeast is that, harvested pitch or an active liquid pitch, its vitality, I think, has an impact on overall fermentation performance, flavor, action. I'm not saying it's better or worse, but there is a difference there. Bacteria, wild yeast. You don't want stuff in there monkeying around. Most lager fermentations take time. The more time there is, the more opportunity for something else to take hold and take over. Diacetyl and VDKs. So a fun fact and part of lager brewing, and we'll touch on that here a little bit in a minute. But diacetyl rests as a function of the nature of lager strains is a key step that needs to be employed irregardless, and in some cases with ale strains as well. And not get into any of the system stuff. You know how to clean a valve. One fun thing about lagers and the history of lagers is because of the available ingredients back in the day were the requirements of the brewers to employ step mashing, decoction mashing to develop flavor, color, and enzymatic activity as well. So, not just low to high rests for acid, glucan, protein, sacs, but also to halt enzymatic activity in the mash in order to create body, mouthfeel, residual sweetness, the development of long chain sugars that some of these colder cryotolerant strains couldn't get around. Here's some typical step mash stuff. If you haven't monkeyed with this in the brewery, in your home brewery, it's a fun waste of time. And I say that in the most loving way, to develop flavor profiles that I don't think that you can accurately replicate in single infusion. But talking about single infusion and other mashing regimes, stone brew, anyone? The utilization, and really what all that is getting at is the utilization of enzymes in order to develop the sugar and starch structure in your wort in order for you to have a successful fermentation in the end. This kind of gets into some of that. There's lots of ways to skin a cat. Fortunately, the high quality ingredients that we have, specifically malt, the enzymatic activity of malt, the quality of the malt that comes out of both traditional and new maltsters. Don't discount the guys at Stone Path or Yakima, wherever. Like, those guys are, you've got a local maltster that is making some really good malt for you to like monkey around with. And the beauty of that stuff in a lager representation is that, and if you get a clean yeast, hopefully, which NovaLager is, it allows the expression of that to really shine. So, it's one of the things I'll be working on with our some of our smaller maltster partners out there is the use of this yeast for those beers. But no, enzymes are your friend. I think it's hard for homebrewers to get their hands on some of these. This might be
alpha amylase pretty easily, but everything else has been a struggle.
okay. We might this might be a future thing. So I have some high friends in low places. Boiling, typically extended boils, DMS, a nasty flavor. And unless you love Rolling Rock, you're trying to get rid of this out of your beer. So vigorous boils, um, van extraction if you have a closed boil. If you have a contained boil, make sure that evap coil that you have in there and the drip tray, that you're not like just leaking DMS juice back into your beer. Again, lagers, light, crisp, clean. None of this cabbaged cream corn garbage. Temp control primarily will drive esters and fusels. So your the idea that NovaLager is a clean fermenter at an elevated temperature, even though, we say this is one of the points that we drive in data in the lab. This is one of the things I want to talk about with you guys here at the end. Traditionally, elevated pitch rates, cooler temperatures, longer times produce cleaner beers. So we'll see if this proves otherwise. We talked a little bit about vitality of yeast. I've always felt, and whether I used a commercial pitch, like at Gordon Biersch, we had a plant, we would get a keg of yeast in, depending on the beer that we were making, every 3 to 5 weeks. And then we would be using that for serial repitching, get to 10 to 12 brews before that next keg would come in from the plant. Or maybe I needed hef instead of the lager strain. I always felt, and this is one of the reasons why I advocate, if you can, harvesting and repitching. I always felt that Gen 3 made the best beer. Didn't matter what I did, when I did it, Gen 3, that pitch just kicked ass. 4, 5, 6, yeah, sure. But it was and again, irregardless of a dry pitch up front, a liquid pitch from in-house, or one of the liquid guys. So if you can get into any sort of a harvest and repitch cycle, I thoroughly encourage it. And I know the NovaLager, as with all of our dried strains, work really well at repitching. No, that's a lie. Cerevisiae does not. That's that GMO strain that makes acid with ethanol. Should have called it kamikaze, because basically it kills itself from the acidic condition. Yeah, don't repitch that one.
Doesn't Philly Sour do the same thing?
No, Philly Sour can repitch, but because it's a Lysantia strain, it's not happy. It's like I akin Philly Sour like to Cerevisiae. I feel like my grumpy 17-year-old teenage son. He's just like, have to, okay, I'll do it, but yeah, you gotta you kind of kick him along a little bit. Cerevisiae just gets it done. 3 days. What do you want next? Off to the next thing. Diacetyl. So diacetyl is, it's common byproduct from fermentation. It's going to occur based on yeast strain and condition in most beers. Not all. There are some strains that either don't produce or absorb in a quick and rapid fashion diacetyl and VDKs. So the key thing, and we all know how to do a diacetyl rest, and if you don't, here's a good little primer on how to move through one. It's basically allowing a free rise at the back end of your fermentation, healthy fermentation, hopefully, that allows yeast to reabsorb some of those off flavors. So, and the reason I say healthy fermentation is because, you know, at the end, you want the beer to fully attenuate. There's no reason not to allow a free rise at the back end of your fermentation, because most of your flavor development and contribution occurs at the front third of your fermentation. So the back end is all for cleanup, and the yeast, specifically lager strains, and some ale strains, tend to work better or absorb better at an elevated temperature. Think like your pores open up when you get hot, right? Same deal. So if you're not doing diacetyl rest to control and check this, you should. And an easy way to check if your beer has passed VDK test is either the quick microwave method, right? Warm up a sample, or if you've got an active fermentation, you can take a sample from, put it on top of like your hot water heater, you know, or someplace warm, and let it warm up. You know, you come back the next morning and you can tell if it's there or not. So some diacetyl is appropriate for style. You know, think about Pilsner Urquell. I mean, Urquell has actually been used as an example of sensory flaw at some lectures that I've been to of elevated levels of VDK and diacetyl. And yes, that's true, but if this was one of the first lager beers produced, they didn't know this yet. So it became part of the flavor profile of that beer, just like H2S was part of the flavor profile of Rolling Rock. So sensory is a subjective thing, and sometimes not a kind of interest. You know, and H2S, aside from yeast selection, which, you know, the NovaLager has been bred not to produce, here's a way to reduce and or eliminate H2S. Big thing is having healthy fermentations, using a nutrient. If you've got some adjunct in your lager, adjuncts tend to be nitrogen deficient, unlike barley's, or if you're doing something high gravity. Contact time, you know, time of absorption. There's a reason lagering or cellaring, you know, for 4, 6, 12 weeks or more is a thing. And then nobody wants stale beer. In this program here, you've got some QR codes that you can get on and download a little deeper dive into some of these aspects. I mean, there's a reason our yeast is expensive. We got big teams of smart people that like to study things and then share that information. So we try to make that available to you as well. We talked a little bit about enzymes. Process aids also include finings. So think about isinglass and other auxiliary finings to help clarify and or improve the quality of beers, whether it's through clarification or stabilization. There's a whole range of tools and tricks that are available to the modern brewer that wasn't available to the old timers back in the day. And this is some of the stuff I think I can get you access to, because it's easily kind of repackaged and shared. There's with a couple of exceptions, unlike yeast, which is really kind of hard to break down and split up and send out and store for a long time. So ALDC, again, one of these little like powders or liquids that can be used to basically get in the way of the enzymatic function of the development of diacetyl. So it's a trick that some commercial brewers use or employ to prevent the diacetyl rest and just move a commercial product along in a quicker fashion. 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Is it really, you getting better beer out of it? It's solving an initial problem. Again, sensory subjective. I'm old. Your kids, get off my lawn. Yeah, so speaking of old, lager is old. It's been around a long, long time. We have an expectation of what a lager should be, of what a pilsner should be, either based on that first beer, Bud Miller Coors, that you got from your dad, or what we've learned and grown to love, along the way. So it's a fun time. I love West Coast IPAs. I like some brutes. Some of the hazies I have a big problem with. I've met no thiol based focused beer that I haven't felt like tasted like compost. But I'm sure something will come along in time that I stumble across and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I get it now. Yeah, nasty. But lagers are fun. And again, back to disco and Barry Manilow. What's old is new again. Wait, me? What? No. Speaking of which, whoever came up with that poster, you would not believe how many positive and negative comments I've gotten on that thing. I think it's great. So kudos on the graphic design. Java, there it is. Nice work, dude. I appreciate that.
How's the effing man?
Thank you, guys.
No, thank you very much. I dug it immensely. So
Yeah, no problem.
So that's basically kind of what I wanted to talk to you about. I hope you're cool with that. Again, I'm gonna provide this link. I should have it primed and ready for you, but I don't. But I will do that. And I'll put it in the chat here, or get it to you, Haven, so you can share with the group. It's downloadable. I think it's a great resource. It covers a lot of ground. There's some QR codes in there. Oh, dude, you got it. Sweet. Thank you. I need all the help I can get. And it is, I think it's a great reflection of the development that we've done as a company, not only providing you guys with, I think, a novel product, but also old timer like me blabbing, but really the technical resource for you guys to like learn and develop your skills and understanding from. So it's key to our core kind of mission statement. You know, our we brew with you. We're not here just to sell you the widget. We want to teach you how to use it. So cheers to you. Thank you. Appreciate your time. And I'm going to get to the top of the chat here and we'll go through some questions. How about that?
Sweet.
From a conversion to another, dude, I appreciate you. Thank you for coming on and schooling us on some things. I appreciate it, man.
Oh yeah, you bet.
The thing I love about this industry is the more you know, the less you know. You know, you're just like, fuck. Like you can just, I mean, go down the rabbit holes. And that's what I appreciate about the guys in the lab is that, you know, there's nobody out there that knows everything. You know, I mean, rare example, you know, find a Bamforth, you know, but that's all that guy is also, you know, like tunneled in to his vision of what beer is, you know, talk about old timers, codgers, you know, or Lewis or Ockert or whatever. I mean, the thing I appreciate about the lab guys now specifically is they've gone a lot deeper into what they have and what they offer, you know, like science doesn't stop, you know, like that. They don't stop. And as a result, we get a new thing. That's what cerevisiae was. Like nobody like went into like, oh, let's come up with this. Yeah, a bunch of yahoos in the lab out at Moscoma, you know, or like making beer and in the back. And they're like, wow, we came up with an acid yeast. I'm like, what? What? You did what? let's talk about this. So yeah. So God bless the guys in the lab. All right.
Didn't they find Philly sour like on a gravestone or something?
So it came out of a graveyard, and the original number for Philly was GY-48 blah blah blah, whatever it was, you know, because he had that guy Farber, who was at U Sciences there, Philly. He's now moved on. He's not there anymore. But yeah, he took his like grad students out or one of his classes out to do swabs, and they're just looking for novel yeasts, you know, and they found one that was actually fermentative, you know, produced ethanol. I'm like, oh, well, how efficient did it produce ethanol? I'm like, oh, well, for a Lachantia strain, what we know, it actually does very well. And acid, maybe there's an application there somewhere. So through
Cool.
yeah, so through associations with the ASBC, which is the American Society of Brewing Chemists, he got in touch with us. You know, again, the lab guys are talking, and I'm like, hey, there might be a commercial application for this sort of thing, which, again, compared to cerevisiae, I think it's kind of, you know, the grumpy teenager. But we can only sell cerevisiae in countries that allow GMO. So big part of the world, you know, this has like been a game changer for them. So yes, found it in a graveyard off of a maple leaf. It came off of a maple leaf.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
Wow.
kind of fun. And we're now looking for different yeasts. The guys are like, what's the next new thing? You know, we've got this low, no alcohol strain coming down the pipe. We've got another GMO strain coming down the pipe. You know, what do we need? Another IPA strain? Really? Now? So corporate's got us all kind of on the hunt for something novel that has a good story, i.e. marketable marketing. God damn it. but
Runs the world.
yeah, exactly. But makes good beer. So So anyway, that all that stuff is coming. So yeah, so let me talk a little bit about Lona. Low no alcohol. It's been a thing, right? It's been a thing for a while. And if you've ever tasted any of those beers, you may or may not like what you've tasted based on what you know what a beer should be. I haven't had one yet that I'm happy with, but I'm also a whiny bitch, and I will find the flaw in everything. And there's a ton of flaws, I think, in NA beers. So what the gang at Renaissance, same group through hybridization, that came up with the NovaLager strain. What they've done is they've developed a Sac cerevisiae strain specifically that does not only not utilize maltotriose, which some yeast strains do. 1968 Y yeast are London, the CBC one, but it doesn't utilize maltose. Now, there are non-maltose yeast strains out there, but there are no Sac strains that don't utilize this. So it is unique. It is novel. We've got some big players that are playing around with it. And we're launching like right now, I think tomorrow. So that's why I'm telling you guys, keep it on the down low until you see like actual like physical marketing. We don't get them like all pissed off at me. They're already pissed off enough. But it's super fun, and I think it's gonna make good beers. Now, the thing about this strain and why you guys might not have access to it for a while is because of the food safety element, right? This is an NA beer. It still has a shitload of unfermentable sugars in there that need to be stabilized in some way, shape, or form. So pasteurization is really key to the partners that we've been working with up to this point, but at some point we have to sell it to anybody that wants to buy it. But just like any NA condition, acid levels, PU, pasteurization units, are going to be key in the not only the stabilization of the beers produced by this strain, but also in flavor profile. Right? You got all the sugars in there. Something's got to balance them out. You can only throw so many hops at it, but you got to bring a pH down. So think of a sour condition ish. And therein lies, I think, your guys' ability to produce a food safe NA beer or bust out your sous vide. Right?
Try
think
and
you're
tip
gonna-
5 gallons of bottles in a sous vide machine.
Yeah, dude, no, I've done that. It's no fun. It is
Throw-
no fun.
Throw the keg in
Oh.
your electric kettle. There you go. That'll do
Yeah,
it.
and not only that, but I found, and really where I monkeyed with pasteurization was in my cider making, is that it changes the flavor profile of the product that's in the bottle. And with cider, it came from, oh, that's a nice, bright, fresh, crisp apple off the tree to, oh, that is delicious baked apple pie. Not what I want. So anyway, more to come on the Lona front. I think official market release will be at CBC, but we're on the down low release here this week. So tons of fun on the Lona front. She was not a showgirl. Feathers in her hair. All right. Bu-bu-bum. Tristan, you're making an NA beer? Oh, no, you're making a lager. My roll, talked about that. Sierra Nevada Hop Splash. I don't know what that beer. What is that? Is that a NA beer? Is that a hop water?
It's just hop water, yeah.
Okay. Dude, that Lagunitas hop water is delicious.
Oh, that shit's so good. I love it.
Yeah. Me too. Is there
Anytime
an
I try to make
opportunity?
hop water in my kegerator, it's just like it's really good until the last like gallon. Then it's just like stringent mess.
Carbonic acid, it's a thing.
Yeah, it's awful.
Is there an opportunity for more Group 3 lager strains to be produced? I think there is. So nobody is like confirming or denying anything with me. I believe it is. I believe it is proprietary. I mean, the technology, schmooing is not proprietary. Any yeast lab out there, can come up with a hybridized, strain of anything. It's easier to go the GMO route. That's why you've got the Berkeley Yahoos doing their thing down south. That's why you've got Escarpment doing their thing, north of the border. And I mean, hybridization's been around forever. So, but nobody's really doing it. So you've either got the old timers, Logsdon, Chris White, us, Fermentus, been around forever. Or you've got, the guys that are coming in with the CRISPR thing. Not two folks have the resource of the lab required to do hybridization, but it's coming. I think Imperial's doing a fair amount of work with hybridization right now, too. So you'll start to see this stuff from everywhere, and it's about time. We all know yeast is easily adaptable. That's why we have so many strains available to us. Whether it's liquid or dry or that business. You can get a yeast strain to morph, in relatively short order. Probably about the same time as you get a fruit fly to change its genetic condition. So
So you mentioned CRISPR. Is that common, or has it been a game changer as it has for everywhere else? I mean, I didn't know. I don't know. Yeast labs are using CRISPR technology. That's pretty cool.
yeah, they are. So there's two types of genetic manipulation, right? So there's I forgot the terms. One of the tech heads above me could know it, but there's the inherent type where you're just monkeying with the genes within the DNA itself, or you're plugging in something from the outside. So I think CRISPR's where you're
You're injecting. They inject
you're
genes into
plugging something in as opposed to, well, I'm just going to massage what's there, within the genome itself. So, and I think that's where we differ from what the CRISPR guys are doing. I mean, the Moscona dudes, I mean, they like their beer, concentration is 2% of what they do. I think they spend most of their time in the bioethanol industry. Like I think that's where 80% of their resource goes, that company. The only reason we have an association with them is because we bought them. The only reason we bought them is because they were doing all of our testing for us. And then we learned, it's like, dude, that's the only thing they're doing is our testing. So yeah, that was an easy acquisition. But thank God, because again, we got a bunch of beer geeks back in the lab, so fun. But back to this group 3 thing, I think Renaissance does have a few other things up their sleeve when it comes to these group 3 lagers. It's not just going to be NovaLager. What that is, I don't know yet.
Sweet.
Experiencing open fermentation only down at Anchor. So no, there is a impact to atmospheric discharge. Maybe if you put a vacuum on a closed tank, you could approximate what you got off of think a sucked boil where you're bringing volatiles off. That's one of the things you're doing through fermentation, just trying to drive off flavors, out of there. So I've never done open fermentation myself, either through like a cool ship induced, or all the lager ferments that I did primarily at Gordon Biersch. They were lager house, were in a closed system. But no, there's an experiment for you. Doing an open ferment versus a closed. Easy to do. You got a 5-gallon bucket. Open closed. So as long as you got a healthy, vigorous fermentation going and a cap, it's really interesting. Apparently, if you get a large enough vessel, the fermentation will create geometric patterns in the foam cap at the top of your open fermentation. I don't think you can get that in a bucket, and not surface area, but like this, you could see it at the squares. Go to Anchor, take the tour, go stand at the door, because it's all positive, pressure HEPA filter, and if they're doing hops or anything, you stand at the door and you smell the CO2 that's coming out of the room. I mean, it's heaven. I'm a dork. I mean, it's just, you just stand there and pass out from CO2 exposure, at that door. It smells so good. But you can see a pattern at the top of that cap, and it's kind of cool. Worth checking out. I think it'd be worth checking out, but I've never done it.
Sweet.
Harvested yeast. Yeah. No reason not to. It's like this is cold tolerant stuff. It's used to sitting around. I think it's easy enough to do a quick viability test. Tongue schmear. Anyone? This is my favorite yeast test of all time. Doing a commercial harvest or pitch. Like, it's not just the flavor of the yeast, which should taste like clean yeast, but you get a CO2 burn across your tongue as you move a schmear over it. It dances on your tongue. You feel it. Your sensory is the best lab instrument that you have. So if you can pull that off and you've got a regular rotation, I mean, it was one of my favorite things to do. It's like, yeah, I know I'll put some on the hemocytometer, but I know this is good. Bam. And you do that for 10 years. You become calibrated, as it were. So yeah, harvested yeast, because it's healthy, it has good vitality. So and in the right condition, you can store yeast. I mean, that I have a whole presentation on harvesting, storage, and serial repitching of yeast. So there's another hour for you to waste your time. Listen, we'll time it off. It's fun. There's no reason not to, if you're doing it regular. So free rise whole fermentation. I think I would be nervous of that. Again, like your 3-day mark is kind of where you're in control of the I mean, yeast wants to do its thing. The brewer is to not only provide the conditions for it to do its thing, but also to control what it does while it does its thing. And a straight free rise from the get-go, I think, is going to develop some off flavors. I'm going to leave it at that. Whole range of off flavors, depending on the conditions, depending on the strain you're using, depending on the ingredients used, malt, etc. So there's that's my David, that's my 2 cents. Local buddy of mine. I don't know if are you guys looking at the chat, or you just wait for me to talk here. Sorry. Local buddy of mine, pro brewer, doesn't do diacetyl rest, swears by enough yeast. He's not wrong based on the yeast strain. There are some strains that suck it right back up. No issue. As long as there's enough in there, it's healthy fermentation, you won't have a diacetyl issue at all. But I think that's some strains. Most strains are derived from traditional lager or traditional ale. We're talking ale, we're talking English ale. Shit's loaded with diacetyl. He's not BSing you. The strain he's using is extremely efficient in performing this function. So get some, make some beer with it. Without temp control, tolerant strains, mid-60s. Again, David, you're talking producing lagers?
I believe so, yeah. Because David, correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't ferment with temperature control at all, correct? Is David still here? I think so.
Yeah, sorry, I'm walking around, but yeah, I'm just representing for that. Do it occasionally just because don't have another means, but happy to experiment with it. So I'll certainly be recording the NovaLager results just
awesome.
for fun.
So I'd love to see what NovaLager actually does in a warmer temp condition, because I haven't put anything on my tongue yet. All I've seen is spreadsheets. But in this scenario, you don't have temp control, use Kvikes. Bunch of Kvike strains out there, bunch of single culture strains, or you can find some mixed strains as well. The stuff it's alien yeast. It is its own freaking animal. I shit you not. I am continually amazed at what it does. I have a local called Solera. It's just right down the street. It's a block away. He lets me come mash in, mash out. So my ass isn't on front of a computer like all the time. It gets me out. It gets visceral. So and he uses Voss. I mean ours. He buys it through a distributor. I don't hook him up for free. But it is like cerevisiae. I think the Kvike strains have the ability to transcend from being an ingredient to being a true process aid, right? Truly solving a problem. In this case, I need to make a clean beer. I don't have temp control. How the fuck do I do that? Can't do it with traditional lager strains. I'm making California Common. Can't do it with an ale strain. Oh, it tastes like diesel. The Kvike strains, boom, 100 degrees, no problem. How much? 2 days, 3 days, and that's the other thing that they do. It's like, not only do they burn off hot, fast, clean, but they move so fast that nothing else has a chance to take hold. No bacteria is going to get done in that time. And like they're alien yeast. I think a true game changer. So so kudos to Lars and the rest of the gang up there. I think we have tons more to learn, not only from them, the tradition of those raw beer styles, but also the cultures that are fucking hanging in the middle of the bird shit ring on the barn wall. Like dude, I want to make beer from one of those things. I do. I mean, it might taste like ass, and I would understand why, but I would love doing it, and I'd still drink that. So anyway, Kvike is your friend in this regard.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
So is Lallemand working on any other Kvike strains?
Dude, we've got a few, but it's just like, okay, we've got a Horndal. We've got there's Horndals out there.
Is that in a homebrew size?
A Horndal?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's the Omega, the Otter, the
Lutra. It's Lutra.
Yes, we make the shit for it. Lutra, yes. That is based off of Horndal. That is a Horndal strain. So we matched it on we matched it up. So that's available. I think Cellar Science, guys at More Beer, they've got a Horndal strain. And that's different because there's several out there. I mean, there's a bunch out there, but that's different from the Omega one. And I think that one comes from Christian Hansen. I think that's the origin of that strain. These could or could not be the supposed origins of these strains. Who am I? I'm a guy in a basement. Yeah. Pressure ferments. Yeah. This is, I mean, we were talking about open fermentation, active fermentation. One of the reasons why you're doing that, just like you're trying to have a vigorous boil, is you're trying to drive off flavors, and sulfur is one of them. So my personal experience with pressure ferments were only for carbonation, right? And that's basically 1 degree over Plato before final attenuation. And that hits you right around 2.4 volume CO2 in the tank, and then you can move it off to a package from there, whether it's a keg or serving tank or whatever. I would think that the same would apply to what you're doing, but I've never had any experience nor really delved deep into the science or the reasoning why you would want to pressure ferment the entire time, when part of, I think, the action of fermentation is to, just like boiling, drive off some volatiles. Yeah, bung that tank on the back end, but get the flavor business out of the way in an ambient environment. You're not trying to contain anything or stress anything, unless you've got a clean ale strain and you're trying to do something hazy, tropical, whatever. Or you're trying to retain, aromatic volatiles. But in a lager scenario, I think you want to get rid of that. You want to clean that up. So cream ales, yeah, I think, you're using a neutral ale strain. Same deal. Like you need to get rid of some of the volatile off flavors, aromas, through an active fermentation.
So you
So
wouldn't
along those
recommend?
lines-
Oh,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I was just gonna ask if you don't recommend to do a pressure ferment for lagers then.
Dude, I don't know enough about it to say yes or no. I'm telling you, with my experience, I've never done a straight pressure ferment from start to finish. I'm sure that somebody's got some rationale for doing that. I haven't learned that yet. nor have I ever brewed anything like that. The only time I've ever done anything pressurized is through a little Nagel or China hat micromatic. It's basically a PRV valve, that would blow off. I did blow a tank once. That was a disc. Whoops, sorry. Thank God that disc was there though. But no, again, that's a topic I'm not. I have no qualms saying, I don't know.
All right. So one thing I want to throw related to that. So I did the NovaLager, did I think like 3.5 gallon batch, and I put it in a keg under pressure, 15 psi, and I definitely it right now I was just looking. It's only 13 days since brew day, but there's definitely a noticeable sulfur character, and I think it kind of plays in what you're saying, that just not enough, not the chance to kind of push off some of those volatiles and the gases and stuff. But so I guess what have you guys finding with the actual, like, because I know the marketing claims, right, is that sulfur production is pretty low. Is that kind of match up with what you're seeing?
Yeah. So there's a difference between H2S and SO2. Hydrogen sulfide, sulfur dioxide. Okay. And what you're smelling is sulfur dioxide. That's the SO2. It's not H2S. Difference between that: burnt match and rotten egg. And if you get on our
which one is which?
So the H2S is the rotten egg. It's the fart smell. Sulfur, SO2, should be brighter, crisper. There should be a note in there. It's traditional to the style, but in a pressure ferment, I could see how it can be off-putting. Easy way to get rid of it is bubble CO through the bottom of that tank. But you just blown out all your carbonation, right? So the way to get around that is let it ferment ambient until you get down to 1 degree Plato or whatever that is, balling above final, and then plug it up. And now you've developed your flavor. You've eliminated the SO2. This yeast does not produce H2S. It cannot. They've bred it out. So any funk, sulfur that you're getting, that's SO2. Make any sense?
Yeah, I don't have a sample in front of me, but I think what you're talking about, that kind of bright matchstick kind of thing is probably more what I'm getting.
Yeah, and sulfur is a volatile, so it's easily scrubbable. And dude, I've burned a lot of CO2 through the bottom of tanks in my time trying to get it down to what I think is a correct level. And it's really all lager strains will produce an SO2.
If we're going to talk about getting it down and the funk, can you please put your disco record back on along with the disco light, please?
Dancing, dancing, dancing.
We got the funk.
Yeah. All right. So you've got the tech paper there at your disposal. What beer style needs to be more popular? More popular. Do any of them need to be more popular?
This is my subjective question. So is there one that you wish was more popular? Like the one that you haven't seen? One that comes to mind is like American Amber Ale, and some of those that I wish would make a comeback, but it's up to you.
Actually, what I would like to see more of are they're the Eastern European smoky lactic light ales.
Licking Hunter.
Yeah. There's one that starts with Godratsky. Like, they're all beers in a language I don't like know or understand, and you don't find them that often. And every time I do, it's just like, oh fuck, that is awesome. That is amazing. I would drink that like all day. They're light, they're crisp, lower pH, a slight acidity to them. They're not sour beers. I wouldn't classify them as sours, but because of that kind of neutral balance, they allow a lot of flavors to kind of shine. I think they're lovely beers. Lovely beers. So I'd like again, but that's my subjective thing. The market is probably like, oh, well, no, we need, well, what, amber and golden? We're coming back around to that whole thing again, aren't we?
I mean, the one thing is, I brewed a couple of really nice beers with the Lallemand Abbey yeast, and for a dry yeast that has excellent Belgian character. But I suspect, are you guys actually selling much of that? Because I don't see anybody brewing Belgian beers.
We don't sell a lot,
So I guess that would be my vote for the style that needs to be more popular.
Right. And who knows, like we might have a Belgian resurgence. Think about what doubles, triples, the Abbey beers, the advent of saisons, when those started rolling around back in 2005 or whatever. On the craft side, I mean, DuPont has been here forever. There's a reason that beer is a legend. But no, the Abbey does a good job. It produces just classic, that phenol kind of character that you would associate with a Belgian beer, if that's your jam. So the wit does good on the dry side, and then the Belle Saison, which is 3711, the diastatic Saison strain. It's my favorite yeast strain of all time. I love that. I mean, makes great beer, fantastic cider. The non-diastatic Farmhouse is fine. I think it's a little too clovey for my taste, that kind of pop note. So, subjective. It's half the fun. And 3 to 5 years ago, if you would have asked me this question, I would have said lager, and look at where we're at right now. So, not only a nod back to something historical, but also kind of a reflex back from, just the massive hop overload that we've had, over the last, 5-10 years or so with just not only just the advent of IPAs, but the hazy, the juicy, now the tropical, the thiol thing. So shaker pints, most beers in most bars, shaker pints suck, but as a publican, dude, you're not running a restaurant with correct glassware. Not gonna happen. Unless you have small place, you can control what's going over the bar, and you're charging $12 a pint for theft and breakage. So it's what I love about going to Europe is that those little beer bars, you're not going anywhere. But go to some tap house. No chance in hell. And if you find one, it's rare. And if they do that, like, make comment, thank you for using correct glassware. It's rare. I appreciate it. There's an extra buck, whatever. Dried Irish ale. You're not wrong. Love, like, Irish ales, soft on hops, noble hops, typically, malt forward, dry those things out. They can be beautiful beers. How many kegs of Killian's Red did I go through in my early 20s before I got into beer, before I knew what beer was? R. Next strain. NA Guinness. Guinness has an NA beer, yeah. I'm not sure what. So there's lots of ways of producing NA beers. You arrest ethanol development up front, or you remove it out of the back end. That spirit that can get removed out of the back end, the brewer can then use in turn to make a hard seltzer. That's dependent on state. I think Minnesota does this regularly. Hazy Sam Adams NA. I'm guessing that's a strip method. I can't do an athletic brew at all. Not that's just that wort thing, and that's what it. When I did mention it, it's one of the other things about this yeast strain that we've got is that because it's cerevisiae, it actually has the uptake pathways for those aldehydes that contribute to that kind of sweet wort flavor, that grainy flavor. So it helps clean that shit up.
It's one of the things they related. I was at a pub and there was a guy in there like had a serving the athletic ones, and they were all really good. But I've had athletic ones that I bought at the store, and they're not good. So I suspect that's a style that just does not package and does not age well. Like much, it's probably worse than like New England IPAs.
I think they're serving it unpasteurized out of the keg. Like, hey, come have a tasting, right straight out of the brewery. No chance for anything to go south. Isn't that good? go buy a 6-pack.
I'd be wonder if they do that.
Marketing, those bastards. Nova is Kvike lager strains claimed to be from what I can tell. I don't know. Kvike strains are not like we've had them sequenced. They're not lager strains at all. They're a different animal. Really? Pressure ferments that low? Brent, what did you pressure ferment at? At 15?
Yeah, that's what I did from the start.
All right. More smoked beers. I love smoked beers. Gratzer. There we go. Lickenheiner. Yeah. Like your Heiner. God damn it.
Hey Brian, when I said I pressure fermented at 1 to 3, this is Trevor. That's just to test that the fermenter actually is sealed up. And then I allow it to do most of the primary fermentation at 1 to 3 psi. I have a small, I think it's from Kegland, a spun valve.
Yeah.
And then when it drops to a 1 degree Plato from what I expect final gravity to be, I'll bump up the regulator valve up into serving range.
Yeah.
Okay. I see.
So
I see
far,
that.
I haven't seen
It's still.
really
it allows kind of a rapid off gassing of that initial fermentation. And again, I'm thinking the first 48 hours, 72 hours, right in there. I mean, that's when things really kick off. That's when you're trying to like clean that beer out. So
yep, usually in 12 to 36 hours, I already have moved 5 gallons of star sand in a keg that's in line with it.
Oh wow, okay.
So there's plenty of off gassing.
Yeah, I was gonna say 1 to 2 psi. You could probably get by just clearing a keg. Honestly, that's probably enough head pressure. 1 to 2 psi.
To build into a keg or to clear a keg.
To do like the star sand flush of the keg.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I owe everyone documenting like what my fermentation process is, so I'll make sure I do that this week for you.
Cool.
Is that gonna be part of the survey thing that we're sending out, Haven. It's like charts and cause I got a lot of temperature control things, and I have my tilt and all that. Hey, you're muted, Haven. Haven, you're muted.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah.
All right, I have a section in there to submit recipe pictures, documents to. So I'm going to collect really as much shit as everybody has on this, and then we'll figure out how to display it. So I think we're going to consult with Marshall once we get the data collected. I kind of have a picture of like what the general homebrewer survey they do every year. Kind of have a picture of like building an article like that, to where we're collecting all of this stuff. And then if there's random things like, I know half of us have tilts, half of us don't. Some of us had tilts in both batches.
So I'm probably waiting for a second discount.
We're yeah, I got to talk to Trevor about that. We're gonna.
That's all right.
We'll collect some stuff. And
I'm working on it, guys.
We'll get there. But yeah, we're gonna get. I mean, really, all of the raw data you have, send it over. We'll figure out either how to incorporate it into another graph. If it doesn't fit into another category or something where we can condense it, I'm just going to send the raw data then too. So I'll include a nice article on our website. I'll include the nice article to Brian and Lallemand and everyone. And then to them as well, I'll just send like, here's everything else, like all the shit that we have, here it is. And we can kind of sort through it, and I'll explain it. I won't just kind of throw it out there blind, but yeah.
I was interested because I know a lot of us collect data differently. I know I'm kind of a data geek, so I have as much as I can. But that'll be kind of a vomit of charts and graphs and so.
And that's good. That's what we're gonna want, especially if we can get it already in graph form, which would be nice. Yeah, we'll just include those right in there. Try not to make the article too long, especially, we don't want an hour-long read for us. But I think we'll have enough condensable stuff to be able to keep it short, sweet, to the point, show everything, and get what's needed over to Lallemand so they can see that practical data that we collected.
So I know I rambled on long enough here, and you probably got shit to do here on a Sunday night. Let me, in advance of that stuff, I'd like to just kind of get your feedback on the strain, what you've seen so far, Brent. I mean, you made mention that it is kicking out a high level of sulfur. In this case, I'm banking on this as being SO2 in a high pressure ferment. What about the rest of you here?
I can jump in. I just tested mine for the second time tonight. No sulfur on my end. I didn't pressure ferment. I fermented cold. I got them with I got both Diamond and Nova with a vitality starter, just because that's what I do. So they were active when I pitched them cold, fermented right around 53, 54, probably a little higher with temperature rise. Tested them today, clean. There's a distinct difference between the two, but holy shit, attenuation, man. I'm down to 1004, and that thing is bone dry on both of them, and they're good. I like them.
What was your pitch rate? How many packs per 5 gallon? Let's put it that way.
So I did 1 pack of Nova and 1 pack of Diamond in a 1020 starter for each. So it was a smaller gravity starter just to get them kind of juiced up and ready to go. So I don't think there was a lot of reproduction, at least on their end. So I pitched them into a starter 24 hours before pitching them into the beer, and I pitched them into 2.5 gallons each. So it was over pitched for sure.
You did not pitch dry.
Correct. Yeah.
This is good info. We want this is data. That one.
Yes, I did not pitch dry. I think most of us did. I think when I pitched the Colm yeast dry when we did the New Zealand pills, I had such a huge lag time that I have to chalk up my issues that I had with that beer to the long lag time. So I've kind of adopted just doing a small low gravity starter with these.
Have you been using corn or anything else in your grist for that beer?
I did use a little bit of flaked corn because that was the first opportunity I've ever gotten to use it in a beer. So I was super excited to try it. No real corny flavors, maybe a little bit more in the diamond batch.
Okay, gotcha. Because I'm really curious about the high attenuation, which is crazily high, I think.
Oh, yeah, I'm at like 92% right now, which is nuts. I've never gotten that out of a lager strain.
Damn.
Yeah. I'll be right back. I got to grab my charger before my computer kills me here.
Who else?
I'm still waiting for an opportunity for my significant other to allow me to brew a double batch. probably
enough.
next weekend, we'll see.
Fair
But
enough.
I'm planning on doing a 60-degree ferment and just dry pitching and then basic recipe. You know, I don't know if there's anything specific you want.
No, just the results of whatever it is that you're doing. So Haven, I just emailed you a copy of the fermentation sheet that we use with our commercial partners.
Okay.
If you can share with the group, and I mean, you can adapt this to whatever you want to do, but it's a fun sheet that automatically populates some fermentation graphs. It has a sensory sheet in there that you can plug in some attributes that'll actually automatically build your own flavor kind of spider graph.
Okay.
It's a cool tool.
Any way to just standardize it, make it a lot easier for data collection down the pipeline, like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is basic sheet that we send out to everybody that we've asked to be trial partners on the commercial side, and most of them are pretty good. Most of them are pretty good at filling that out. Sometimes they just send us their tank sheet, and then I'll plug it in for them and say, all right, well, I think good enough.
Sweet. I'll include this as a link. I can get it formatted so I can link this too, so have people fill this out as well on top of the video we're collecting.
Again, just another resource. I dig it. Of course I'm a dork like that. I like tank sheets, so it's a good one in a digital format. So,
oh, hell yeah, sweet. Yeah, I'll get that attached. Thank you for that.
Well, I didn't know if we had a time limit, but we're 45 minutes over. So cheers to you for fucking putting up with not the old timer in the basement ramble on. I
think we got a 5-minute warning like 30 minutes ago.
Well, shit, yeah. We want to respect your time, Brian. If you got to get going, I know it's probably.
I'm not going anywhere. Anybody got any other questions that I can answer or help with?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you guys about your experience with NovaLager in consideration of the flocculation of the yeast. So does it drop out really well?
It's not good.
Not yet.
And it's like and like, really, you guys, like, you're doing all the schmoo. You can select your attribute, this, that, and the other thing. You never thought to think, oh, lagers are supposed to be clear. How about we help them flocculation on the ass end?
Isn't there direct relation between attenuation and flocculation kind of deal? No.
No. I mean the only on the inverse, where if you get a highly flocculent strain that tends to drop out of solution, it will leave a less attenuative beer. But in terms of yeast in suspension, it doesn't. You kind of want that. Have you ever like, oh, I got to go rouse a tank? I need to get the yeast off the bottom of the tank and back up in suspension to like help dry that out, that extra, 1/2 degree Plato or whatever it is. So
So your official stance is flying the shit out of it, essentially.
Yeah. You gotta clean this up. Use a gelatin, use a biofine, use thyme, and a horizontal cylinder. Y'all got that laying around in your cellar, right?
I guess
but
lay a keg on its side.
No, surface area is your friend when it comes to long-term storage and clarification. I think I was taught at Bridgeport, where we had the horizontals, in the tank, is that the flocculation characteristic of yeast is like there's stalactites and stalagmites. There's one grows or hangs from the ceiling, and one grows up from the floor.
Tight to the ceiling.
So
stalactites.
Okay, so what are stalagmites? They're from the floor.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how yeast will flocculate out, is by positive negative ion chains that hang from the floor. So if you have a short surface area, then all of these, the chains have to hang somewhere. And by stretching your floor out, then you get more surface area for these. Whether the dude is full of shit or not, I've always like, no, okay. My simple, monkey brain can wrap its head around that thing. All right, I know how to make clean beer. And for the most part, it works all the time. I mean, surface area is your friend. But whole other range of factors come into that. That's where findings come into play. Healthy yeast comes into play. Calcium levels in your work come into play. All of that shit impacts the flocculation. But that's why lagering tanks were long and flat, big long tubes.
Long, flat, and cold.
I've been inside the lagering tanks at Budweiser. We have a plant here in Jacksonville, and it's pretty cool, exactly like you say. I'll tell you what, Budweiser's really good at the bright tank. It's not so good once it gets into the keg, but out of the bright tank, it's really good.
It is. We had so at Bridgeport, and I brewed for Bridgeport between 92 and 97. And right down the street was the Blitz Henry Weinhardt's plant. And at that point, it had been absorbed by one of the generics out in the Midwest. So they're producing Milwaukee Ice and all sorts of crazy St. Ides, crazy shit out of that plant. But they had these cool old horizontal squares that were glass lined. So when the guys would go in and do CIP, I mean, they would like scrub those things out. They'd have to put the booties on so they wouldn't scratch the glass of those tanks. And that was all. And those beers I thought were delicious. Yeah, it's like Keller beer, right? I mean, that's what that shit is. Zwickelmania, right by where it's super fresh, before it gets packaged, before it gets cooked, for all the downstream shit. That's the representation of what that beer can be. And for industrial shitty lagers, they were amazing in paper solo cups, because that's all they had down there, at the water tank. They did. There was no such thing as proper glassware at Blitz Weinhardt. And that's the sad thing about, the closing of those plants, is that, that was a technology at the time, a glass lined cement tank, it's the size of a fucking warehouse, with a valve at the end and a couple spray balls. It's kind of a beautiful thing.
Would you consider the geometry of a fermenter at a homebrew level to be a major factor when it comes to flocculation? Probably not, right?
No, you need you have a better chance of impacting the clarity of a beer variety of different ways other than tank configuration. So
that's all. Yeah.
I'm kind of doing a little mini experiment. I'm in a D&D group, and I'm playing a drunken monk, and I'm making I have a Jovian Lithuanian farmhouse yeast that I'm gonna take throughout the whole campaign, and so far I'm on generation 2. You got any recommendations to keep that going? I'm just
how often are you brewing?
This style probably 2-3 months. So right now it's the one I have in there is a month old.
Yeah, step up those numbers, bud. 3 months. That's a long time. If there's a way that you can every 6 weeks at the minimum, like put it through like a little starter. Yeah,
okay.
And then keep it cold. Keep it no pressure.
I have the lid on a mason jar pretty loose on that. That's how I store it.
And then keep it under sterile water.
Yeah.
You don't want the top exposed.
Yeah.
I'll dig up the paper I've got on yeast storage.
Awesome. Yeah.
So, and that'll help. But dude, 3 months.
Yeah. I can't. I don't want to I can't drink it that fast on my own, and then I can, I guess. But it's more my brew schedule. Honestly.
Can you make smaller batches more frequently?
Probably. I haven't thought about that.
It's something you don't want to do.
I'm not really geared towards that.
Yeah, it's not something you want to do all the time. It's like, fuck, this is how I got to keep this yeast strain alive, is by brewing 1 gallon at a time. But in this scenario where you're doing it for a project, something to consider.
You can also think of it as a sourdough starter, and just toss away some of it and redo another vitality starter. If you're not going to be brewing for a couple months, just
good point.
You don't have to
brew, but you gotta keep it like
keep it going.
Gotta keep it up and going. Yeah. So, and they make those like can starters. Doesn't Northern Brew do one or
proper?
It's a really fun concept that I'm really nervous about, in the long run, because our last campaign lasted 2 years. So I'm kind of like, ugh.
Okay.
So
I was thinking, 4 months, 5 months? What are you doing?
No, 2 years. Yeah, it's gonna be a while.
Not fucking around. Perfect.
I guess I'll have to up my game. It's just it's hard finding time with the family and all that. That's really the limiting factor.
Cheers, Dave. Thank you for joining, man.
Good night, Dave.
No worries. It was awesome hanging with you. Bye.
Yeah. Ciao.
Right. In fact, I'm gonna go pull some right now. Why not?
3 a.m. in Germany, Sunday night. What's that guy doing?
Talking to us.
Awesome. Fuck yeah. Any other questions?
I'm looking through the chat. I don't see any.
So I could throw in one. So I noticed some of your papers on talking about lagers. They threw in Nottingham in the mix. So what are your thoughts about using Nottingham for producing kind of clean lager-like beers, and what kind of fermentation temperatures have you had success with Nottingham?
It actually works surprisingly well. Not only do we have some customers making pseudo lagers with it, but we've also got some customers making ciders, like hard ciders with it, because it does ferment well cold down to 45 degree Fahrenheit. What is that? What does that see? 8, 9, something like that. and it doesn't start tasting hot until about 75 Fahrenheit. There's a reason it's our oldest, most robust, and consistent strain. Is that it's a workhorse. So yeah, it's on that list for a reason.
It's a good one too.
Nottingham?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a rock star. Just bangs out clean beers, 3 days, like just blap. There you go.
I got Nottingham up to, it was by accident, but I pushed it in an Imperial Stout up to like 82 degrees internal temperature. So it was freaking rocking. And that won me a silver at a over competition. So shit, it wasn't
really
didn't get that bad.
It didn't taste hot.
It was hot. I mean, for a while, it aged out.
Okay.
I think the Imperial Stout was kind of expected.
But you haven't tasted hot till you finished my Rogue Wave there, Haven. So
yeah, it's actually it's in here. I'm a little scared for it. We'll be doing that soon.
Me and a friend in 2017 decided to see how much alcohol we could get in a beer, and we got 19.5%. So so yeah, 2017 is when we brewed it. So. It's not too hot right now. It's taken 4 years. What is that? 4 years? Yeah, to figure out. But
it's at 19.4 ABV. So yeah, it's gonna kick my ass.
A lot of honey and that Sam Adams genetically modified yeast is how we did that.
See, and I think on those beers, you want it to taste a little warm, just so you know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
It's like slow it down.
Well, the idea was. Yeah, the idea was it's called Rogue Wave because it's supposed to smack you in the face. So,
out of nowhere, bam.
Yeah.
Just like the Oscar.
Yeah.
Well, what's coming up on your what are you calling your series? True Brew series?
Average Brew series.
Average Brew series. There it is.
Yeah, Haven, what's the next one?
So I don't know. I don't know if we should talk about it.
Say too early. Yeah,
just stop the recording.
I think we're going to bail on Saison. Nobody's going to watch a 2-hour recording anyway, so it's fine.
I would.
Oh yeah, I'll rewatch it at some point. I think we're going to bail on the Saison idea for now. I think we might push that off to Q3. Give us some, especially if we're going to do a side-by-side between Farmhouse and Bell, what we were talking about, Brian. I think we'll push that off to Q3, so our fall series. I think we may look at some sort of wheat beer for Q2, not your standard American wheat or Hefeweizen, so something different. And it might be in collaboration with not one, but 2 other pretty big entities in the homebrewing circle. So we're in the works. So I'll be curious to see what comes out of that. We're working on something right now.
Nice.
I think a beer flavored beer that you can sip on a nice warm summer day.
Well, Saison is what you just described there.
Yeah, I'll be curious. We got some more chats to do, and Brian, I'll send you an email on it of kind of what we're thinking. But we're still getting details ironed out as to if this is going to be part of the Average Brew or if it's going to be extra. But we're looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a style that I've never brewed.
Well, anything you want from us, just holler. Happy to participate. And then again, as I alluded to at the onset here, we're not the only yeast manufacturer in town. I've been doing this a long time. I've got contacts with all those guys. They're all my friends. It's one of the coolest things that I love about working for Lallemand is this comes directly from the patriarch, the owner, Jean Chagnon, very Quebecois. you know, there's the French, and then there's the Quebec French, and they just take it, they take it to a whole nother level.
Canadian
But
French.
his thing about this industry on the supply side is that there is no one company that can do it by themselves. Is that we are more collaborators than we are competitors. Takes a village. We all have different stuff. And that's half the fun, is the community aspect of this industry and what we do. So anyway, anything you want, whether it's our stuff or anybody else's, get you hooked up.
Hell yeah, I will certainly let you know. We've been thinking about trying to expand everything and seeing what we can do. I mean, this is all for, like you said, the community, getting people the exposure through our club and supporting our members. I mean, that's why we do this all. Is it's fun to see everybody brewing and trying new things and replacing old ingredients with new ingredients that we kind of introduced them to. So it's all worth it in my book for the hours of work we put into this. It's fun. So yeah, I'll hit you up about Q2. We'll figure something out. But yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for spending time with us. I mean, you spent 2 hours of your Sunday afternoon as well with us, which is awesome. And here we go, disco lights going back in.
I'm dancing in the basement, so thank you. I would do this anytime. We got a variety of topics that we could talk about. So
adding real data to that you can use really makes this a lot more fun for me, honestly. It makes this hobby a lot more, that you'll go back and use, and to make better yeast for us to use in the future makes makes this so much more fun.
If you think you know it all, get out.
Oh God, no.
I'm glad my tilt graphs will be helpful after I finish drinking the beer.
Yeah, we'll get that data collected over for you, Brian, and I'll be in touch.
All right. Thanks, you guys. I appreciate it.
Appreciate the time, Brian.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah. Ciao.